You've met them before. Maybe once, maybe twice, maybe even more. You can recognize their face instantly. You remember the conversation, the way they spoke, maybe even what they were wearing. But their name? It's gone. Completely gone. Not even sitting at the edge of your memory. Just empty. And in that moment, something shifts inside you. A quiet panic. Because now you're not just forgetting a name, you're performing. You're smiling, nodding, pretending, hoping someone else says their name first, hoping the moment passes before you're exposed. And afterward, you replay it in your mind. Why do I always do this? Why can't I remember something so simple? It feels careless. It feels embarrassing. It feels like you failed at something basic. But what if the truth is, you didn't fail at all? What if your brain was doing exactly what it was designed to do? When you meet someone new, your mind is not calm. It's not empty. It's not waiting patiently to store information. It's overwhelmed. It's scanning their face, analyzing their tone, reading their body language. It's asking silent questions. Do they like me? Do I like them? What should I say next? Am I being normal? Am I talking too much? Not enough? Your brain is juggling multiple streams of information all at once. And right in the middle of that, they say their name. A single word, a random sound, something that, in that exact moment, means absolutely nothing to you. No memory, no image, no emotion, no connection. Just a label. And your brain ignores it. Not because it's broken, but because it's efficient. Your mind is constantly deciding what deserves to stay and what can be discarded. And names, by their nature, are empty. They don't carry meaning on their own. They don't connect to anything you already know. And because of that, they're easy to lose. Psychologists discovered something fascinating about this. There's a concept known as the baker-baker paradox. Imagine you meet someone, and you're told that he is a baker. Instantly, your mind creates connections. You think of bread, flour, early mornings, the smell of something warm. There's a network of meaning forming automatically. But if you meet someone whose last name is Baker, none of that happens. It's the same word, but this time it's just a label, and your brain treats it differently. Days later, people are far more likely to remember the occupation than the name. Not because they tried harder, but because meaning always wins over randomness. Your brain doesn't store words, it stores connections, it stores patterns, it stores emotions. And a name, by itself, offers none of that. It floats in your mind with nothing to hold on to, and eventually, it disappears. But there's another layer to this, one that feels a little more personal. People who frequently forget names are often not distracted by the world, but by themselves. While the other person is speaking, introducing themselves, offering their name, something else is happening internally. A voice, a constant stream of thoughts. Am I making enough eye contact? Was that awkward? Did I say something wrong? What should I say next? You're not fully present. Not because you don't care, but because you're trying to manage how you're being perceived. And by the time the name is spoken, your attention is already somewhere else. This isn't a flaw in intelligence. It's a shift in attention. There's a psychological phenomenon called the next-in-line effect. It describes what happens when people are waiting for their turn to speak. Instead of listening fully, their mind moves ahead, preparing, rehearsing, editing. And as a result, they remember very little of what was just said. If you live with social awareness, or even quiet anxiety, this state becomes constant. You are always slightly ahead of the moment, always preparing for what comes next. And that means you miss what is happening right now. including something as small and as fragile as a name. So maybe the problem isn't memory, maybe it's presence. But here's where it gets complicated, because on the other side of this experience is another person, someone whose name you forgot. And for them, it doesn't feel neutral. It feels personal. It feels like a small rejection, like they didn't matter enough to be remembered. Even if that's not true at all, the brain doesn't interpret forgetting as a technical issue. It interprets it emotionally. And the message it hears is simple. I wasn't important. But the reality is different. You might forget someone's name and still remember everything else about them. The way they laughed, the story they told, the feeling of the conversation, the energy they carried. You were there. You were paying attention. Just not to the label, because your brain chose something else to keep. Memory is not a recording. It's not a perfect archive of everything that happened. It's selective. It filters. It prioritizes. It holds on to what feels meaningful and lets go of what doesn't. Emotion stays. Novelty stays. Connection stays. But random, unconnected information fades. And people who struggle with names often have something else in common. They are highly associative thinkers. They remember experiences in depth. They notice subtle details. They feel conversations rather than just hearing them. Ask them what someone said years ago, they might remember. Ask them how a moment felt. They will describe it perfectly. But ask them for a name, and suddenly, there's nothing. Not because they weren't present, but because their brain was focused on something deeper, something more human. This kind of mind is not defective. It's just wired differently. It values meaning over labels, experience over structure. And while that makes certain tasks harder, like remembering names, it also creates a different kind of awareness, a deeper one. The ability to read people, to sense emotions, to understand what isn't being said. And maybe that matters more. Still, there are ways to bridge the gap, to work with your brain instead of against it. When you hear a name, repeat it, not mechanically, but intentionally. Attach it to something, an image, a person you already know, a detail about them. Create a connection where none existed before, because once meaning is there, memory follows. But even with effort, you will forget sometimes. And when that happens, the worst thing you can do is attach shame to it. Because shame doesn't improve memory. It just makes you more self-aware, more anxious, more inside your own head. And that only makes the cycle stronger. You forget, you feel embarrassed, you become more self-conscious, and next time, you're even less present. The solution isn't perfection, it's understanding. Understanding how your mind works, understanding what it prioritizes, and accepting that forgetting a name does not mean you don't care. It doesn't mean you're dismissive. It doesn't mean you move through the world without noticing people. It simply means your brain chose something else, something it believed was more important in that moment. And maybe it was. Because in the end, a name is just a sound, given to someone before they became who they are, before they had stories, before they had depth, before they had anything worth remembering. And what you remember about people, the real parts, the subtle things, the way they made you feel, that stays. That has always stayed. The name was never the most important thing. It was just the easiest thing to lose. And maybe that's okay.